through darkness and through light. Cry it out to the world. Spread the word. Spread the word of Islam.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله والحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله. In the name of Allah, the Compassionate, the Most Merciful, all praise is due to Allah, and may His peace and blessings be upon our beloved Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. I begin by greeting my brothers and sisters. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. May the peace and the blessings and the mercy of Allah be upon all of you. And welcome to this program where we have a beautiful journey with a world-renowned scholar, a beloved teacher, a father figure to many, a leading scholar, an expert on Ibn Taymiyyah, an expert on Islamic philosophy. And we are invited to this journey with our beloved guest here for the day and for the few coming days, Dr. Jafar Idris. Dr. Jafar, it is such an honor to have you with us. And I am, and I believe like many of our audience, we're really looking forward for this. And if we can start by introducing who Dr. Jafar Idris is.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. I have been asked questions several times, and I find it embarrassing. One finds it embarrassing to talk about oneself, especially if you don't have something great to say about yourself, and that applies to me. But anyway, I hope I will give you a brief account of my life. I was born in a city in the Sudan that is by the Red Sea, called Port Sudan. And that name was given by the British because at that time, the British were ruling the Sudan. I was born on 15th June 1931. So I am still young. So and when I was, must be 2 or 3 years old, I went to, like all the children of Muslims at that time, my parents took me to the khalwa, what is called khalwa in the Sudan, but what is called madrasa, I think, in this in
the subcontinent they call it madrasa, and in some places they call it kutab.
Kutab, yeah. This is the place where you study Quran. At the age of 6, something terrible happened to me, and still the 6. I was playing and I stepped on a nail, and it seemed that the nail broke the bone inside. But for some reason, no one at that time could cure this, and I stayed in bed for about 3 years. Now, one doctor decided to amputate my leg. My father agreed, and many of the people who were consulted agreed, but my mother said no. He told her that this might, he might die. She said, better die with 2 legs
than live with one.
So I'm very grateful to her for still having 2 legs.
I wonder what were her reasons if the doctor said...
I don't know. I don't know. But the result was, when the wounds were cured, that my foot became smaller than the other foot, and my leg shorter than the other. But anyway, that was better than nothing, not having any leg at all.
And this is happening at the age of 9?
I don't know where it happened. No, the accident happened at the age of 6. But we discovered that the leg was shorter only later on, perhaps 9 or 10, because I was limping. And when I was asked why do I limp, I didn't know until I went to the hospital, and one British physician measured it and said, of course you must limp because your leg is shorter than the other leg. Then, but there was some good, as you know, some good can come from some terrible things that happened to it. I realized that people of my age were very much ahead of me in their in school. So I came to study with real enthusiasm.
Gotcha.
Now, I used to get up in the morning, go to the Islamic school, then at about 7 or so, go to this regular secular school at this was the time of the British. Then I come from school, go to the Islamic school. Then in the evening I go to the Islamic school, and so on. This went for some time. When I was, I don't know what exactly was my age, but it was very early in my life that some of my relatives were Sunnis, and they told me about the Sunnah, and this is shirk, this is so and so, and I joined their group. My father and mother used to belong to a Sufi order. Don't want to mention the name, but and I was told that these Sufis commit certain kinds of shirk.
I'm sorry, Sheikh, just for the benefit of our audience, when we use the word shirk, we are referring to associating others with the Creator, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.
Yes, yes. Especially, for example, when you invoke their help, or you make dua that they save you, or and so on. This is kind of shirk. But of course, no one prays to them or now.
So now you're faced with this, if I can call it a dilemma.
No.
You're belonging to this orthodox group, if I can call it, and your parents are following the Sufi order.
Now, these, and something unfortunate happened to me. These people made a very big celebration. I don't know what they were celebrating, very near our home. And everyone went out to take part in that, except me.
You stayed behind.
I stayed. And pretended, I sat by my desk and pretended to be studying.
A very committed student.
No. My mother came and told me to go and join the people. I said, Mother, I'm busy, I'm studying, and so on. She said, no, you have to go. And we used to respect our mother very much and to obey her. But I refused. And that was something she couldn't bear at all. And she boycotted me for several days.
That's serious?
No. But again, I was fortunate because she used to respect someone who was her relative. He was a learned person, and he was a Sunni. She didn't know this. And he came and reconciled us, and he told her that what Jafar did is right, and so on. She the best thing that I think I did as a da'iyah, and I hope Allah will accept it as a good deed, is that my mother and father came to the Sunnah through me. Now, my mother changed, and for my father it was not difficult. He was Hafiz of the Quran, And he used to ask me to come and read to him some of the books that I was reading. So, and when my mother changed, I asked her, I said, I told you about many things. What was it that
Did it for you?
Yeah, she said, and I say this, and I want everyone to see. Don't belittle people. My mother was not a learned woman or so, but the hadith and the verses of the Quran can be used even with very common people.
Sheikh, I am sorry. I'm really interested in knowing what it is that had your mother change her mind, but we have to take a short break. Please do stay tuned to find out what really happened, and we will be back, inshallah.
Spread the word of Islam.
A man, a mission, a world-renowned orator on Islam and comparative religion. He dedicated more than 5 decades of his life for dawah. Ahmad Deedat.
We Muslims believe that Jesus was the Christ.
This book is an eternal book of guidance for you and for me, for the whole of mankind. It's a solution to the problems of mankind. The miracle is when you expect a man to be dead and he's alive. That's a miracle.
Man with a Mission. Every Monday to Thursday at 6 p.m. and repeat telecast at 9 a.m. India on Peace TV.
Where truth is hidden and misleading quotations create confusion. Where truth is hidden, lack of knowledge and wisdom cause upheaval and commotion. Where truth is hidden, manipulated scriptures and twisted facts emerge. This very hidden truth creates false propaganda, mayhem, chaos, disorder, and turmoil in our lives and the world order. But is there anyone with courage and wisdom? What is the truth, and who has the courage to expose it? Because it's your right to know the truth.
Watch Truth Prevail and Lies Perish in Truth Exposed by Dr. Zakir Naik. Every Sunday to Friday at 9 p.m. and repeat telecast at 7:30 a.m. India on Peace TV.
Spread the word of Islam.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. May the peace and the blessings and the mercy of Allah be upon all of you, and welcome back to this beautiful journey where we have as our guest our beloved teacher, Sheikh Jafar Idris. Sheikh, I stopped you when you were telling us that your mother has changed her mind regarding the Sufi order that she was following, and you asked, what is it that did it for you?
Of course, the worst thing that they were doing was to invoke the help of some people whom they called saints and who were supposed to be descendants of the Prophet ﷺ. So I told her about a hadith. It is a long hadith, but in which the Prophet ﷺ called upon his relatives, the tribes and so on, until he came to his own daughter, Fatima. And he told them all, something like, I cannot save you. لا أغني عنكم من الله شيئا. She said, I said to myself, we are following all these saints because they are descendants of Aisha. And now the Prophet is saying this to Aisha. That was the reason why, alhamdulillah, she came.
That is beautiful. And Sheikh, you started by saying, never belittle sharing a hadith or the ayah with people.
Yes.
And that's because this is an example of how she thought about the hadith that you related to her.
And I remember something else also. I was reading to her the verses about Maryam. and the verses that Yusuf recited yesterday. And when I came to the verse where Isa said, Inni Abdullah, wallahi, she almost jumped. She almost jumped. Inni Abdullah atani al-kitab waj'alni mubarakan. Naam.
And this is in reference to what is mentioned in Surah Al-Imran. Isa says, I am the servant of Allah.
Naam, when she pointed to him, and he said, I am
The servant of Allah. That's in Surah Maryam, yes.
Naam.
Yes.
What else? Then I joined that group, as I said, and I benefited very much from them. It was through them that I came to know Ibn al-Qayyim and Ibn Taymiyyah. And at first, I found Ibn Taymiyyah very difficult to understand his books. So, and I used to read Ibn al-Qayyim more. Then I went to high school, where at that time, communism was very strong in all the world. That was the time of Stalin and so on. And the communist parties in the Arab world were very strong. And there were communists in the school. So we now, our activities now shifted from talking to the common people about saints and so on. We started talking to these our own colleagues about the existence of the Creator, about the falsehood of communism, and it was at that time that I started reading something about communism, and it was at that time that I read almost everything that Sayyid Qutb wrote, and also at that time that I read some of Abu al-Hasan al-Nadawi's book, some of Mawdudi's books, and all the time we had in our mind something to
keep you on the path.
Yes, to lose as I'm against people who were rejecting anything in the religion, and that is, I think, that had an effect on me, because I became more and more interested in arguments and in proofs and so on. That is why the first book that I wrote, perhaps that is the reason, in Arabic, was physics and the existence of the Creator. Then I went to university, where I studied philosophy. And I still remember that when I started studying, looking at communism from a philosophical point of view, I found it very much weaker than I thought it would be. I don't want to spend much time on that. Then the university sent me, when I finished, I studied philosophy as a major subject and economics as a minor one.
And Sheikh, I'm sorry, before we go on, I find it interesting that, keeping in mind the background that you came from, that you chose to study philosophy.
In fact, I didn't choose. I just found myself compelled to study philosophy. That was, we were the first students to study philosophy. I was staying with some of my friends in a students' club, and we were talking about what subjects we choose when we go to was it second or third year. And one of them, Jafar, there is something new, there is something interesting. Why don't you try it? That's philosophy. And that was just
That's how you started.
That was how I studied. But then our professor of philosophy was from Sweden, And because, as I told you, I used to argue and so on, and he liked that very much. And he told me, "You are a born philosopher." So he encouraged me. And then went to Britain to do my master's and then PhD. But then I had to interrupt my studies, go back to the Sudan for political reasons. I wanted to take part in political activities after the
Independence of the Sudan.
no, not the independence. After there was the Sudan was ruled by a military government, Aboud, and then after him there was democracy and there was a chance for taking part in politics. So I went back. Then after some years, I went back to the university and resumed my studies. And I was again very fortunate. The supervisor was from Britain, and he suggested to me. It was him who suggested to me. I was writing on the topic of causality, just from a philosophical point of view, and I referred to something Islamic in the first, I think, chapter or, that I wrote. And he said, "Oh, why don't you make the whole thesis about this?" So I made the thesis on the Islamic concept of philosophy. And according to this British, what do you call, regulations also, the supervisor had the right to elevate or what they sees the master's into a PhD. And he did that, so I never got a master's degree. I went to PhD.
He thought your master's thesis was good enough
To be, yes. That was just the first chapter that I wrote. And I was very fortunate. He never, as I say in Arabic, he never said to something that I wrote why you wrote it, and to something that I neglected to mention why you didn't mention it. So I was very fortunate. Now.
And now, looking back to studying philosophy, you think if you had the chance to maybe choose another subject of studies, would you have chosen philosophy?
Yes, I would have chosen philosophy. And I think I benefited from it very much. And Ibn Taymiyyah said something very interesting about philosophy. Perhaps you know, he said something, I mean, that seems to be unbelievable. He said he used to argue with the philosophers. When he was only 14. At 14, people don't know cannot understand what the philosophers say. He said something strange about two strange things. One is that he said that philosophy trains you to look into minute things, النظر الدقيق. In another place, he said that had it been for the fact that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made us better than these philosophers by the Quran and the Sunnah, they would have been the wisest people. And he was referring to Greek philosophers. Now, so I would
go back and study.
Now, and we're also fortunate that the philosophy that professor concentrated on was something very useful. It was not just the ideas of this and that. It was something that is called philosophy of science. And the philosophy of science is like usul al-fiqh. Usul al-fiqh compared to fiqh is like philosophy of science compared to the different science. And that is why sometimes they call it the same thing. For example, the foundations of physics, philosophy of biology. and so on, in which they study almost the same thing that the Usuliyun study in relation to the Sharia.
Islamic jurisprudence, foundations, principles versus jurisprudence itself. Sheikh Jafar, this is getting more exciting. And as it's getting more exciting, time is getting very close to the end of this part of our program in this journey with Sheikh Jafar Idris. Thank you for joining us, and definitely, Sheikh, thank you for being here with us. And inshallah, we will be meeting again with the Sheikh, so please do join us when we meet next time. Until we meet you, then we say so long, and assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Spread the word, oh man. Spread the word of Islam. Oh, fortunate one, paradise must be won. Paradise must be won each day and each night, through darkness and through light. Cry it out to the